So, all right, friends, good evening. Thanks for joining this webinar. This is Swagat from devop-trics. I am the CTO. Madhu was supposed to be with me today, but because of some urgent reasons, he is unable to join the webinar. And I will be hosting this webinar for you today. Thanks a lot for your time again. So, with this, let us start. People are still joining in. Uh, let them join in, but let's get started. Okay. So this webinar is about mobility testing, okay? And in the end, we will see just a very small demo of Appium with Java on TestNG and Maven framework. Okay, so first of all, what is mobility testing? Okay, so many people have understand mobility testing a little differently. So it has two components primarily. Okay? So one is about the mobile application testing, and second is the device testing. Okay, but all of them are for the correct functionality, the correct usability, and consistency. So there are a lot of factors which we will understand going forward in this webinar. But first of all, let me just tell you the importance of this. Okay, so mobility testing has gained popularity recently because of the widespread use of mobile devices. Okay? Nowadays, most of the people are not using their laptops or PCs for majority of the daytime, then they're using the mobile devices. And most of the applications, even if you say uh, take for example Zomato or say maybe Swiggy, so they have online presence also, but instead of online, people prefer to use their apps. So it's becoming very essential for most businesses to launch their apps and to control their users, you know, uh, for their user satisfaction and to get users a very good, experience. So they want to launch their mobile applications and across multiple um, operating systems, multiple supporting multiple device and whatnot. So some applications are, as we know, Android specific applications. Some applications could be uh, maybe Apple iOS specific applications, but there are some applications which are hybrid also. And most often than not, there are some applications which uses the mobile web technology, simply like a browser based application. So there are, like we understand, there are multiple type of applications. There are applications on different OS. There are application on different devices also. There can be application which runs on both Android. It's available for iOS. It's available for BlackBerry, Windows, and multiple other operating systems which are may not be that much popular also. Okay, so with this, so let's first understand that mobility testing includes both mobile application testing and mobile device testing. So let's first see what mobile device testing is. Okay, so we will just understand very briefly what mobile device testing is, then we will jump to the mobile application testing. So mobile device testing is done to assure the quality of mobile devices. Okay, there are multiple mobile phones. Like there can be phones like a bar, which is a smartphone. Okay, there are phones with some feature phones are there with QWERTY keyboards or maybe without QWERTY keyboards. Okay, there are multiple types of phones, and many of the phones take take Facebook app for example. They support Facebook application or WhatsApp application. It need not be a smartphone always. And there are multiple PDAs like there are iPads. Okay, there are different tabs from different companies again. So mobile device testing, it talks about specific. I mean, it focuses on the devices. Okay, and the softwares which come pre-bundled with it on the operating and the operating systems also. So when we say mobile device testing, it is not just the hardware testing, it's for both hardware and software. Okay, so software can be bundled, or it can be some software which can come on top of it. But majority of the operating systems, I mean, even if you talk about Android, there are very few smartphones which carry the pure flavor of Android. There are many additions on top of Android which are done. Android is an open source operating system, of course. So there are some customizations which are done on top of Android. So Samsung does some kind of customizations. Okay, and but Google Pixel leaves Android mostly untouched. There are very minimal um, minimal updates on top of the Android operating system. So it's important that all the operating system and hardware both are tested properly, so that when the phone reaches the users, so problems like hanging of the applications, heating up, those can be minimized, or ideally totally avoided. So there are multiple types of testing done for that. So we have R&D testing. Okay, so there are many companies which conduct some R&D on, like I said, that on top of operating system, there are multiple other features which are built in. Okay, so that goes into R&D testing. So factory testing is also there. So which kind of tests totally the way the phone will reach the users with the factory settings. It is testing. Okay. Then there is certification testing also, which tests the applications or the phones for certain standards. It could be emission standard of the GSM waves, or it could be some. I mean, it could be any type of certification, because see, um, Android operating system or iOS operating system needs some devices to be compatible. Okay, so they need to have that kind of certification that okay, this hardware is certified, and this will support that those particular operating systems. Okay, so how it is tested? It is tested with multiple operating system versions. Okay, like we know that there are so many versions of Android available. It's Froyo, ice cream sandwich, and whatnot, marshmallow, and a lot of things have come now. And there are a lot of hardware also, the hardware vendor interface layers. So like that you can have different type of Wi-Fi chips within a phone. Okay, so every chip will give some kind of an interface also for the operating system to work with. So that interface testing is also very very important. Then all the hardware configurations are very very important. For example, if you take say a magnetometer supported phone, so that should support some applications like say compass. Okay, which generally iPhone support. There are multiple device types also. So if we are going for a say mobile device testing, and there are some some standards for the bar specification or the QWERTY keyboard specification, so they should be tested for those device types also. Okay, then there are some network capabilities also which are tested. For example, how fast internet can it support? Is it like a 2G only phone, or it can support up to 3G or 4G, or does it support Wi-Fi? If it supports Wi-Fi, till what band it supports? Everything is tested with this. Okay, so this is about mobile device testing. Now slowly, let's move to the main topic of today's webinar. That is, we will focus on mobile application testing. Okay. By the way, guys, are you able to see my screen? Are you able to see the transitions of the slides?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks. Okay, so
Yes.
okay, Bala, thank you. So let's talk about mobile application testing now. So, like that applications are developed left and right, right? So, I mean, you go to the Google Play Store, and you will get multitude of applications, some freshly launched by say some novice developers, and some applications have like say 10 million downloads, or they're very popular, right? So it's important that when we have such a big consumer base, right? So all these applications are tested thoroughly. Otherwise, it's also very common to see in Google Play Store that there are multiple applications with very low ratings, and people will not spare you, and they will just simply write that this application is a total waste of time. Do not download this and whatnot. So from the developer's perspective, it may be working on that particular phone, but maybe the testing was not properly done. So they end up with a lot of embarrassment, a lot of bad reviews, which kind of affects their credibility. So it's very important that mobile application is tested thoroughly. But there are multiple challenges which can come with mobile application testing, even more than what it comes with any kind of say UI web testing. Okay, hold on a second. I hear some noise. I'll just mute. Okay, so like I was saying, that mobile application testing is much more challenging than UI testing because of multiple reasons actually. First of all is the combination of total number of devices that it should work with. Okay, there are so many operating systems, so many devices, and so much of permutation combinations there with the localization. Somebody will keep their localization of a native Indian language, so it might be used by some people maybe outside India who have their own language pack installed on that phone. So people have different resolutions on phone, people have different input methods. Some people like to use say uh, maybe just normal say Samsung keyboard. Some people might be using Google keyboard, or say Google Indic keyboard with localization support and whatnot. So these are other features why mobile application testing becomes even more difficult than normal web application testing. Yes, web application testing is also challenging, but for mobile application it brings some additional challenges. So like I said, that first is the multiple platforms. Okay, then devices, resolutions, input methods, localization. So when we are trying to even automate those test cases, it becomes increasingly difficult because of the look and feel of the application changes across different devices or different resolutions. So one script may not work for all devices also. So it's important that the scripting is done in such a way that it is robust, and even if it does not work for all the devices, it should work for most cases. Okay, so that is of primary importance. Then some application testing challenges are even the download and installation also. So sometimes the application is not properly downloaded. It does not get installed even if it gets downloaded. On some devices it does not even install. You try to open that and all you will see is a blank screen, right? So I mean, there are so many permutation combinations on which it depends actually. So again, device availability is a big challenge. Suppose now you are trying to test on emulator. Okay, you have an emulator with you, but if you want to test on devices, if the client says that I want it tested for say Samsung Note 3 specifically. Now you don't have Samsung Note 3. What are you going to do? So these are big challenges. Okay, the client will generally give a list of devices that the application should be compatible with. Now in most cases, we may not even have those total number of devices. Okay, but there are some solutions to it also. We will talk about that sometime later. But let's first understand those challenges. So another challenge is the compatibility with network infrastructure. So suppose your app you have developed for GSM, and for some reason on say some CDMA phones your app is just not working. Okay, so these are also some considerations that has to be kept in mind while testing or developing an application. Now again, I mean, I wouldn't say the word testing as a very separate thing. It is nowadays development and testing is divided by just a very thin line. Okay, it's just the specialization that you have, and developers and testers are almost alike. So developers do testing, testers also at times do development, even if it is the development of unit test also. So people do white box testing also, right? So they are like, I mean, as good as developers, and sometimes they change the roles also in projects. So okay, now back to the topic. So compatibility with different network infrastructure is a very important thing to be kept in mind while doing mobile application testing. Then testing on the emulator also. Suppose you want to cut down on the cost on devices and you have decided that okay, I will work on emulator, but emulator may not work in some cases. For example, when it may fail, I'm not saying it will always fail, but it may fail while picking up calls when the application is running. So if you are trying to simulate this scenario, right? So it may be very difficult to one to simulate the scenario altogether, and second, it may be it may miss some issues also. Okay, so the application may crash when the calls are coming, or application may not even show you that the call is coming. It may not even allow you to change the screen, so you will probably have to first press the home button, minimize the application fully, then you will have to pull down the notification top panel, then you will have to go to the call and you have to take the call. Instead of that, there are many applications which you have seen have good usability. Whenever a call is coming, it will simply like go little bit in the background and just fade, and the call interface will come on top of it. So that is what is the expected behavior in this case. Okay, and like I said before, testing on real devices can be really expensive at times, because some devices, for example Microsoft Surface, it comes for a fortune. Like it costs a lot, and if the client says that I want my application to be tested for say iPhone, say the latest iPhone, so those come real expensive, right? So the challenge is on real devices. Yeah, some issues may prop up which may not be caught on emulator, but on emulator again there may be some advantages also, like practically associated cost is zero. Okay, and you are not testing on the real devices, so a permutation and combination of these both things need to be done. Okay, so the test managers typically come up with some approaches which use emulators for most of the functional testing, but when it comes to say the UI and the look and feel, things are tested on the real devices. And it's in fact uh, more encouraged to go for a beta round of a testing which is done by the say future users or a closed group of users who will be using that particular app. So it's kind of people are using on their own devices, they're reporting bugs if any. So your cost is practically shared by the users, and it's kind of crowdsourced, right? So there are multiple solutions to it. Like there is one solution to the multiple devices and resolutions, input methods and localization. So you have some places like the Sauce Lab, okay, and Browse Stack, and say Perfecto Mobile, so which gives you a platform for selecting any type of mobile device that you want. They have large varieties available, and then you can go ahead and test it on their devices. Yes, there are some charges, of course, and for free there are some very limited hours that you get for testing. But I mean that could be enough in some cases. But if you really want to go for long term, there are some plans available which you can avail. This is typically borne by the companies, okay, or the client, and those are some solutions on cloud which can be really handy. Okay, so you don't have to own the devices that way. somebody else is owning their devices, and you are getting a cloud interface to connect to those devices virtually and just execute them. But those are real devices at the end of the day, which are stored somewhere, and you can connect it through an interface. Okay? And you can connect your test automation tools also with them. Okay, so with this, let's now move to the types of mobile application testing. Okay, so there are various types of mobile application testing. The one which is what we are most familiar with is the functional testing, which is the normal functionality that we test. So that can be done automated way also, or that can be done manual way also. So this is nothing but whatever is the functionality. We get the documents on the functionality, we write test cases, and we execute them just to follow whether the exact functionality is implemented or not. Then comes the laboratory testing. So simulated networks type of things are tested here. So if suppose you want to simulate a Wi-Fi, okay, that over Wi-Fi, how will your app communicate with some peer device through voice or data usage? So whether there is a choppy voice coming, whether the feed is not good, or is the data breaking, or is there data packets are getting lost. So these kind of tests are done in a closed, controlled environment in laboratories. So this type of testing is called lab testing. Then comes performance testing. So of course, so some of the applications, they might be running very slow at times. We see when we sometimes get our new phone, okay, applications run super fast. But whenever there is a load of say lot of say media files are there for that application, or maybe for other applications also, or some space is not left in the on the device, then we start seeing the degradation of the application performance. So this is a very serious issue which needs to be dealt with as early as possible in the dev life cycle. So this will ensure that the developers have enough time to fix these issues instead of identifying them towards the end of the project. Normally what happens is we do the performance testing towards the end when all the coding is done. Instead of doing that, nowadays there is a shift left approach which tells the users that no, you should be doing the performance testing, at least some bare minimum performance benchmarking and testing for every build, so that you are sure that there is nothing majorly wrong for any particular build. Suppose you included some bug fix, okay, in a particular build, and suddenly the performance got degraded from say 0.25 milliseconds to 0.45 milliseconds. Okay, so it is now taking almost like 100% more time for a particular operation. So that is a real indicator of dude, something is wrong here. Okay, so this type of approach is called shift left. So early performance testing. Okay, these are the concepts under shift left. So there is another type of testing called memory leakage testing, which from the word it's evident that we are talking about memory leakage, and while the application is running, okay, sometimes what happens is some instance may be running in the background. Okay, it does not get properly closed. So after I mean, some users of the application, either it crashes because it has got no space left in the memory, or the phone will heat up or go extremely slow because of those things. So this is also one very important part of testing. How, I mean, the memory leakage testing, that it should be carried out for sure. Then there are multiple other testing, like I was telling you about incoming and outgoing calls. So similarly, there can be an incoming and outgoing SMS and MMS also. So based on the app settings, okay, if you allow your SMS application to interrupt the other applications, for example, you're watching YouTube, okay, on your phone, and suddenly some SMS comes. So you will normally see a behavior that suddenly YouTube voice will go down a bit, and you will hear the SMS beep or notification sound, whatever you have selected, and it will show up a pop-up on top of the phone or wherever the phone supports, and that will be an interrupt. So it will wait for you for a few seconds to tap on that pop-up message so that it can open the SMS for you. But if you think it is not very important, so within a couple of seconds it will fade away. Okay, so again the app should come back or resume what it was doing with the full quality. So that is fun. Again, so like I said, you know, uh, suddenly, battery is removed. Okay, so what happens to that app? Is there any data integrity issues that is created because of that? Suddenly, if the phone gets restarted, okay, or somebody inserted a cable like we have this here USB cable, right? So while the application is on, if you put on the USB cable, what happens? Does the app crash, or does it behave erratically, or what happens, right? So those are some kind of important tests that are carried out. So again, network outage or recovery. So suddenly you you are working on your phone and your internet drops at home, right? So how will the app treat the data? Suppose you're working on a very important banking application, and while you were doing the transaction, suddenly internet went off. So should that transaction be carried out, or should it roll back? So depending on what the requirement is, it's very very specific from the bank that, I mean, this is how it should behave. For example, if the if the money is deducted from the bank, and after that it's just waiting for the success message to display sometimes, then if your internet goes away, you will later on get an SMS that, yeah, your money is deducted, but it is updated properly. So when the app resumes, it should then connect back, and it should check that, okay, what happened to that particular transaction. But if the transaction was not completed successfully at the server end, then the entire transaction should be rolled out and no money should be deducted. Okay, so there are different use cases on that. Okay, so these are some very important type of tests carried out on mobile application testing. And then there is usability testing. So there are some specific apps which the support the, say, visually impaired people who are kind of, having less vision. They can't see very well. They don't have a 20/20 vision, but what they can see is, if you increase the font size to a large extent, they can probably still read from a close distance. So there are many apps which support these kind of functionality, so that it helps increase their consumer base also. Okay, so usability testing is also one of the very important testing nowadays. Then there is, of course, installation testing is also there. So these are the typical type of mobile applications testing that is commonly done. Now let us try to focus on some uh, some more. Sorry, I missed a couple of things which are in the next slides. So there are a few more things called certification testing. As I was talking about the mobile devices, also some apps are also certified. Okay, they can be security certified, or they can be certified based on some standards that, if suppose the app is for, say, healthcare in domain, right? So that may be certified for some certification standards. Or if it is, if the app is, say, some kind of a, say, life-saving app, right, like an SOS app, so that could have some kind of certification also. So similarly, security testing is extremely important, because majority of the applications nowadays are supporting financial transactions. Plus, there are applications that there are a lot of data that resides in your mobile also, which are kind of personally identifiable information. It's called PII. It's very important that it should not go to some persons who are not authorized to use that. If it goes many times, what happens is there could be some persons faking their identity as, say, I am talking from, say, KYC department of such and such bank. You hold this information. Your credit card number is this. Now you will get some SMS, um, and you will just have to tell me the number. I am updating some document uh, based on your KYC. And what will happen is, if you are not very conscious, immediately you will be probably divulging the information of OTP, and then done. Your account will be debited of maybe a large amount of money. Okay, so these kind of leaks from the phone also are quite possible, and data leaks are something very seriously treated in this industry. So no app would want to be blamed for data leak. So it's very important that these are security tested properly. Then there is something called the location testing, right? So how your connectivity changes with network and location. Suppose now, at this moment where I am having a 4G connection, okay? And while talking on phone, maybe I'm using, say, WhatsApp to call, and suddenly I go to an area which has a 3G app, 3G network. So without dropping the call, is the application able to switch the network? Okay, so that is something very important, and it's a very interesting subject of test. Now there are some applications which are kind of outdated software testing. So what happens is, you may be trying to install an application with an Android version which is too old, maybe 2.3 or something like that. Which Hello? Okay, I think it was just uh, random message. So okay, let me go ahead. So what I was talking about is the outdated software testing. So software testing. So if you are trying to install your application over an OS which is too old, it may not even support that, because it will not have the required libraries on that operating system to operate perfectly. Okay. So there are important load tests also which are carried out on mobile applications. So load test could be on client also, okay, and load test could be on the server also. So some kind of load test on the client end could be having a lot of media files, okay, on the client end, and then trying to operate that application and seeing its performance. And some examples of load testing on server could be simulating a lot of users who are trying to access an application at the same time. Okay, so these are type of load testing. So there is a ramp up, ramp down kind of methods of load testing also. So we will not go into the details of those, but we will just understand that what are the different type of mobile testing which is carried out. And then what we have is the most common is the black box testing, which is again nothing very different from what the functional testing is. Okay, but when we say functional testing, it could be API testing also. But black box testing is just using the application as uh, an end user and nothing else. Okay, so functional testing can be done with API testing also. That's also possible. So there is a thin line of difference. Now crowdsourced testing is one interesting type of testing that is coming up. So like I was saying, that for some applications, since we have logistical challenges, we don't have devices, or we maybe we don't have a very big testing team, and we would definitely like to get rid of all the bugs and all. So it's released to a small crowd. Okay, crowd means a group, a closed group, who test this application, maybe voluntarily or on a paid basis, whatever it is. Okay, so multiple arrangements can be done. So they use this application and they report bugs. You will often see some features that, okay, this application has crashed, report an error. Okay, so there are different provisions now given for reporting a particular error with an application. Okay, so those are very handy in fixing and identifying different issues, or how exactly the people might use this software. Sometimes it is not very easy to uh, presume that okay, a software will be used exactly like this. People might use it in a different way. Nobody can predict that, because now when we crowdsource it, we're crowdsourcing to a number of brains who are simultaneously working on that application, and they are doing a fantastic job of identifying scenarios which the developer may not have even thought of. Okay, so that's a very important type of testing nowadays, and people are uh, getting done their black box beta testing through crowdsourcing. Okay, so with this, we would like to go to the section of knowing about a few test automation tools for mobile application, and which can automate the UI functional type of tests. So Appium is one of the tools which is like open source and it's freely available. It works for Android, it works for iOS, and it works for all type of applications which is native, hybrid, as well as mobile browser applications. Similarly, there is something called Calabash. Okay, so what Calabash uh, does is, you will see it at the last here, Calabash. So Calabash also can test all these things, but it needs uh, some hookup with the application. But Appium does not need that. I mean, you can test that application just like that using Appium. And Calabash will need the dev code to be changed so that it can have access to the application to control that. There is an interesting tool called Eggplant. So what it does is it does not identify any object on the UI interface as an object. Okay, it works with image identification. So it treats everything as an image, and it has an optical character recognition engine which kind of recognizes a particular text on that screen. Okay, if you say that okay, look for a label where it says name, so it will try to look for any image which matches name in English. Okay, so it's a smart system, and they're improving day by day. But sometimes this image identification on a screen which has multiple elements can be very time consuming, so the test can slow down a bit. Similarly, there are other players like Test Complete by Smartware, Anorex, UFT, okay, which are available as commercial tools. Okay, Xamarin is a part of the Visual Studio, and it gives you access to both Android phones, and you can test iOS also on Mac. But for testing iOS, definitely you need Mac. So even on Appium, even if you're using Appium, you will need a Mac to test iOS devices, or even emulator, because it needs Xcode. Xcode is there for only Mac operating system. It does not work on Windows. Like that, there is something called Selendroid, which works for only Android. Now they're trying to bring in some kind of support for iOS, but as of now, it's a very good tool for just Android. If you're interested in just developing Android test automation, it can be a fantastic tool. It works it has a very close resemblance in working style with Appium, because both of them actually implement Selenium WebDriver underneath. So that is the reason it has a very, uh, uh, very similar way of working. And there is something called a Tosca test suite. It is also a paid license tool. So it also supports mobile automation, and you don't really need to write any code there. It's called scriptless automation. So all you need to do is some kind of configuration. You need to it will have an interface to grab that mobile screen, and you can tell that okay, now I want to perform XYZ operation on this particular field. Now I want to perform then some other operation on this other field. So like that, you just configure the test cases. You don't really need to write any script or write any locators for those objects at all. So that's again, it's a very different. It follows a different philosophy, and it's available at a price, of course. And but the trial versions are available generally for all the testing tools. So please feel free to download if you want to try out any. Um, all these automation tools, they generally use either a BDD framework, which is like maybe Cucumber, or something like a continuous integration tool also with Jenkins. So this helps um, in the continuous integration, continuous testing part, wherein uh, whenever there is a change in the code base, you can get the test cases, or say test automation suite up and running automatically, and send a report to the developers saying that okay, because of these changes, these are the passed and failed test cases, and here's the report. Okay, so that's how things are. So now we will go and see a quick demo of Appium. Okay, now I'll just minimize this, and on my machine I have an emulator running for Android. This emulates a Nexus device. Okay, and I have Appium server running, and Appium is it follows a client server technology. Okay, and I have some test cases there here, but I don't want to go into the details of that right now. I'll just minimize them. All I'll show you is how the same framework can be invoked through the command line with just one single command, and your tests are going to run. So watch it carefully. What it will do is it will install an app on this particular emulator. It will install an app, it will operate on that app, and then it will at a certain stage it will end the test. So let's see what's happening. So I'll just invoke the tests, and I will put up the emulator for a review. So uh, now you see that okay, um, this framework is built with Maven TestNG. Now the app got just installed. Okay, now in a moment you will see the app up. Okay, this is up. Now it will go to a particular place where it will switch a Wi-Fi setting, and it will mention some particular text in the Wi-Fi setting. So again, it's a demo app, and this is just for demonstration purpose. That I mean, okay, what is the potential of what it can do. Okay, so this test has ended successfully. You see a build success of Maven here. Now to see the reports, again, this is my own framework. So I will show you how the report looks like. So this is called an extent report. Okay, you see that I mean my tests are tagged with Appium TestNG UI Android test, and I have the test running. It said that okay, I clicked on preference dependencies, verified Wi-Fi settings is disabled, clicked on Wi-Fi checkbox, verified Wi-Fi settings enabled when Wi-Fi is checked, clicked on Wi-Fi settings, and then finally it will take a screenshot of this. Okay, it's capable of taking screenshots, and then it will set the Wi-Fi settings successfully, click on OK button, and that's it. So it will, at this stage it will say that okay, the test has passed. So that's about it. Now where you can get Appium is, I will just show you. So there is a place called appium.io. You can go there and you can download Appium client for multiple languages. So Appium comes with Ruby, Appium comes with Node.js, Appium also comes with Python. Okay, Appium has Java client also. So Appium server you can get from either Node.js, Ruby, or you can get from Python also. Okay, and for Appium client, we have a lot of client libraries available, like you have just seen here in this. So it has client for Ruby, it has client for Python, Java, JavaScript, PHP, C Sharp, and even for robot framework. Okay, so Appium works on desktop OS X, means Mac, Windows, and Linux. So it has wide coverage on multiple operating systems. So here was the demo for Appium. Okay, and now I open the forum for question and answers, if any. So please feel free to ask your questions. Any questions? Friends? Yes, please. Tell us about Appium Studio, please. Okay. So Appium Studio, okay. So Appium Studio is, it's coming up now, and it's like a, I would say, it's like a desktop server version, okay. But your language uh, bindings, like Appium comes with Java also, and Appium comes with many other languages like you have seen. So that part doesn't change, okay. And Appium Studio will, it will give you an interface also, but generally, so far, it's mostly used with Java, and that's why Eclipse is a great IDE for Appium Studio. So you don't really need that. Like we have this Android Studio, okay, like that. Appium is also there. It's trying to come up with something. How I can cover the testing on multiple devices. Okay, so to cover the testing on multiple devices, like I said, that there are multiple solutions. One, you can have physical devices. Okay, that option is there, but that is an expensive option, right? So what you can do instead, you can go for some cloud-based solution like say Perfecto Mobile. Okay, there is Sauce Lab, then there is Browser Stack. Okay, based on your need, Browser Stack will support generally the browsers and all, and Sauce Labs and Perfecto Mobiles, they will give you some very good range of devices to select from, and you can select from those devices and you can run your tests. In fact, you can, if you are using, say, a same type of test, say for example, all the Android tests, you can run them on all different Android devices and use just one script. So given that your application does not change the UI look and feel too much, then you can have just one application, or you can make some tweaks within that to handle a couple of corner cases here and there. Does that answer the question? Okay. So which IDE is good for mobile app testing? Eclipse, Android Studio, or Appium Studio? I think Eclipse is a very versatile IDE. Okay, it works with uh, virtually anything. I mean, they have increased the support a lot, so there is no reason one should not be using Eclipse. Android Studio is a very heavyweight application again, but for emulators, you will need Android Studio for sure. But you really need not use Android Studio always for this test, because if you're using Eclipse, it is easy to integrate your tests on say TestNG and Maven and all. Okay, so I would recommend Eclipse is a better option among them. Can we do OS Appium tests in Windows? iOS Appium test in Windows? No, it is not possible. Is there any option like virtual machines? Will it work out for Appium test? I mean that's just my personal opinion. Okay, I tried out virtual machine for Mac. It did not work very well. One, it was extremely slow. Okay, and you will see even if you have a suppose you have an Appium server running on a Windows machine, it's perfectly fine. But still, you will either need a say Mac, maybe a MacBook Air or MacBook Mini or Mac virtual machine to start the iOS test, either on iOS emulator or some real device. But you will need iOS. You cannot directly do it on Windows, but your Appium server can run on Windows. That's perfectly possible. But your host machine for iOS testing cannot be Windows. Appium server can run anywhere. It just depends on the HTTP protocol it communicates with. That it's possible. Is there any programming language required before proceeding with Appium? Yes, like you have seen that there are multiple programming language options available for Appium. You need to use at least one of them for Appium client to write your tests. Okay, so it could be Ruby, it could be Python, it could be Java or JavaScript, PHP, C Sharp. It can work for everything. Okay. Which framework combination is good for mobile testing, like Jenkins, Maven, or Gradle testing? So Gradle is typically a build, build tool for Android specifically. But when you are talking about mobile testing, I would suggest a generic solution, like something like maybe a, okay, let's leave Jenkins apart for the time being because Jenkins is a continuous integration tool. But when we talk about, say, build tool, okay, Maven I think is a much better equipped tool. It can work for both iOS and on Mac and what do you say for Android again on Windows. So I would prefer Mac, and definitely for continuous integration, some tool like, say, it's not only Jenkins. There can be multiple things like Go CD is there, uh, Team CD is there, Bamboo, okay, and VSTS itself is there. So multiple options can be there. But yeah, Jenkins is a very versatile thing. It's a very powerful tool. So Jenkins plus Maven is better recommended than Gradle. Can we do iOS Appium test in Linux? No, my friend, it will need definitely a Mac. So either you arrange for a VM or you can go for a physical machine, but it will definitely need a Mac. But as I said earlier, your Appium server can keep running anywhere. You just need to have connectivity with that. Okay, and all your other tests are like Appium nodes. So whatever device you are using to test your iOS, it's actually a node. You will have to connect to the Appium server, and you will have to, um, run your test through the Appium server. The server is needed. Server wherever it is running, it doesn't matter. It can run on Linux, it can run on Mac, it can run on Windows also. But APM client machine, or the node which actually is testing the iOS device, it has to be a Mac for iOS. Do we need any operator? Sorry, object-oriented programming language. Depends. See, all majority of the languages nowadays. If you talk about, say, Python, okay, Java. So these are all object-oriented programming languages only. JavaScript can also work. Okay, PHP will also work. So yeah, it's your choice which language you want to go for. Okay, like I said, there are multiple options available. At least for APM, there are multiple other tools available which work with, again, a range of languages. Somebody replied through APM Studio, we can run and record iOS test cases on Windows machine. Okay. How is Tosca as mobile automation tool? Tosca is, like I said, it is it's a good tool. Again, it's very expensive. Okay, but it gives you a way to um, do, like, some kind of a scriptless type of test. All you do is configure your tests, and you just grab the screen and you say that, okay, this is what I want to do on this particular element. So with other tools like, say, Appium, or many other open source tools, you definitely need to get at least write the locators for each and every object in a very decent manner, in a maintainable way. So I will just show you one thing. So here what I have is, it's like a page object model. Okay, so if you see, for my even demo app, I have all the pages and all the elements of those pages kept in one place. Like, this is following a page object model. Okay, so I have a web element, which is the preference button. Then there is a text. Okay, then there is OS to be selected. So on home page, on preference dependencies page, on preference page, on Wi-Fi settings page, whatever page is there, whatever elements are there, they are kind of separately stored. So any change that I want to make, I will need to edit just one place, but I will need to initially write the locators, identify and write the locators for these tools. That is for sure. That I will have to write. Mostly using XPaths, or maybe Appium will give you some other options also. Say for example, Android find by ID. Okay, so you can give the ID of this also. But XPath will definitely work if anything doesn't work again. So, but in Tosca, you won't have to do these things. You just have to, I mean, it will do these things for you. It will get the, uh, say low level application, the field level properties. All you need to do is you need to save the field in a more readable name, and you can use that directly, and you can say that, okay, I want to perform this XYZ operation on this field. That's it. You don't really code anything on that. So for all mobile automation, Cucumber is better or testing framework is better? I don't understand this question very well. Maybe we can have a okay TestNG framework. All right. I understand now. So okay, see, TestNG is a unit testing framework, and Cucumber is a behavior-driven development tool. The purpose is very different. Okay, TestNG gives you a way to run generic tests, okay, or unit tests, and you can do assertions. You can have listeners. Uh, you can listen to all the events that Suppose when what will you do when your test ends, or when your test is starting, or before your test starts, before your test suite starts. So TestNG gives you this mechanism, and Cucumber, it gives you a layer of abstraction wherein you can tell that okay, now I have a set of things to do, or a set of requirement, and every requirement is in this format, that given a condition, when a set of action is done, then a particular result is achieved. Okay, so this is what Cucumber will give you. So Cucumber will allow you to write your requirements in this manner, and you can write a scenario outline, and you can map each of these lines, each of the sentences in the scenario outline to a particular code. Okay, so again, I mean, our last webinar was on BDD, so please watch it. It's on YouTube. Okay, so you will get some more clarity on that. So it's actually the framework that we used in our last webinar was a TestNG based Java framework which implements Cucumber. So um, Cucumber was implemented on top of TestNG. Okay, so somebody wants the link. So what I'll do is, let me quickly say devop-trics, or hold on a second, I'll just directly go to YouTube, youtube.com, see. So we have our channel here. Okay, so you can go and watch all our videos here. So this is the BDD video. All you need to do is go to youtube.com/c/devop-trics. Okay, here is the URL, and we will be publishing this webinar also on YouTube. So please feel free to have a look. So every webinar that we do, we post it on YouTube. Okay, so that people can watch it. So previous webinar was on BDD, so please watch it. Before that, we also did webinar on continuous testing. Okay, what is DevOps, and a lot of other things. And each week or 2 week, we will continue to do these webinars. So please attend. It will be very nice, and we will try to bring in a lot of value. Thank you, Akhtar. Thanks for typing this. Somebody had more question. Okay, so in the interest of time, I will just take this one or two questions last. So Mahesh is asking, how can we identify the objects in Appium other than UI automator tool? Okay. Um, Android gives you another way. So this is, have you tried out this tool? Android, this is the layout inspector. So you can try out this tool with Android Studio. It can also give you the information about some fields. Then from where a mobile tester can learn more about mobile testing framework, any recommended book? Book, my friend, I don't have any recommendation for now, but there are a few frameworks which are kind of open source and keyword driven. It's called Robot Framework. You can try out that, okay? But Robot Framework again has its own limitations, and it works with Python for now. So you can implement your own framework. I think a Java based Maven, I mean Java Maven TestNG framework is a very good framework. It can be implemented as a good framework if you use Appium or some other tool, of course, with a Java binding. Okay, so I think that's it. So we're at the end of this webinar. I would like to personally thank each and every one of you for taking time out on a Saturday and joining this webinar. Thanks a lot. Okay, I hope that this session was useful for you, and we will always strive to bring in more value for you all. And if you have any more questions, you can reach out to us on our website. Okay, it is www.devop-trics.com. Even if you write devop-trics full, it will lead you to our website. That's not a problem. We have multiple courses available uh, here. If we want to go and see the courses, here are all the courses available. So right from the basic level course for just a Selenium, and we have mobile test automator, all-round automator, which includes mobile testing, API testing, performance testing, and we have some classroom courses also specifically designed for the freshers. And already one batch is running for this all-round automator. So based on the participation, we can start a second batch very soon. So please reach out to us if you need to know about all the details of these courses. Okay, so definitely reach out to us. Here is the phone number: 733-753-7820. You can reach out to us on this phone number, or you can go to this contact us page and you can fill out your information. We will definitely reach out to you. Or what you can do is you can go to this course page. You can go to any of these courses. Okay, for example, if you go to this all-round automated course, now you can just write your name, email address, and mobile, and say submit. We would get this information that you are trying to reach out to us for more details, and definitely we will call you back. All right, so thanks a lot everyone for joining. Have a great weekend ahead. Thanks for all those lovely questions. Somebody has one quick question here: do this online training will contain project? Yes, yes, definitely we will. We actually work like a scrumping, and we will be slowly from a very basic level, because all the participants are not very well conversant with Java and all. So we will go from a basic level and we will go till the advanced level, and we will even try to work out a framework. So that will be definitely included. Okay, so thanks. No more question for now. If you have any questions, please do write to us at contact@devop-trics.com, or you can reach out to us through our website, or you can call us. Okay. So thanks everyone for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you all. See you all again in the next webinar. Thank you.